People of the universe, I'm Matt Micucci and this is Matt's Art Chat, my weekly series of podcast conversations about the arts with creators, curators, and art lovers from all over the world. People of the universe, welcome to a brand new episode of Matt's Art Chat, my weekly series of podcast conversations about the arts with creators, curators, and art lovers from all over the world. Hosted by yours truly, Matt Micucci, coming to you from Genoa, Italy, in the time of the coronavirus. And you know, I lead quite a nomadic lifestyle, forced to, in a way, just chasing those art events and bugging people to let me record an interview with them or document them or whatever. So this quarantine has really forced me to change my habits of the past 7 years or so, life on the road and all that stuff. On the other hand, it has granted me more time to discover art at home thanks to the power of the internet, whether music, books or films and so on. And my art explorations in general are pretty random and broad. I try to defy the algorithms and come up with different ways to organically randomize the art that I consume. That's how I came across Running the Light by Sam TALLENT, who is an American stand-up comedian and also, as this book shows, an amazing author. And this is a fictional novel about a man I would define as an outlaw, nomadic stand-up comedian leaning towards self-destruction and living on the margins of society. But here's a quote directly from the book to give you a better idea of the character of Billy Ray Schaefer. More was the name of the game. More liquor, more blow, more. His yearning was frantic. It howled like wind through the holes in his brain. He longed to penetrate and excrete, to fuck and be fucked, to violate and to be ruined. So, what's to follow is a chat with its author, Sam TALLENT, about both his stand-up comedy and his novel Running the Light, available now at samtallent.com. And I suggest you pick it up. It is maybe the best book I've read all year. And I've been reading a lot of books. I absolutely loved it. So, without further ado, because we did talk about a lot, we went over the usual half-hour mark that defines these podcasts, so I suggest we just get started. Fire up an audio teeny, sit back, relax and listen to the audio waves now as they fly through the air. Hey Sam, how are you?
I'm excellent. I really love this organic intro, and I'm glad to be here talking to you.
Yeah, I'm glad that we could make it work. We're in different parts of the world. Where are you right now?
I'm in Fort Collins, Colorado, which is north of Denver, Colorado, and Denver, of course, is the hub city of the Rocky Mountain Range here in the United States of America.
I wanted to start off with a question that's been on my mind as of late for obvious reasons. So the main character of your novel, Running the Light, is named Billy Ray Schaefer. Is that in reference to the now late great outlaw country artist Billy Joe Schaefer, recently passed away, sadly?
Yeah, so, you know, you read the book. Norm Macdonald is featured prominently in the book, and I'm consider myself an acolyte of the Church of Macdonald. So,
me too.
I was very much hoping that he would get his hands on this book and read it because he's been so important to me, both his stand-up comedy, which I think he is the best comedian ever, as well as his book. His faux memoir, that novel he put out, was one of the best books I read that year. So yeah, I wanted him to pick it up and, you know, get the wink that I was talking about his favorite country music artist.
Oh, right. I was going to ask you whether you were a fan of the outlaw country music and the aura of that music, but I guess, you know, it was more in reference to Norm Macdonald. I also happen to have read that book and I loved it. His book, Not a Memoir. It's amazing. Yeah. So you're a big fan of Norm Macdonald.
I am, and also, I am a fan of outlaw country. I like Merle. I'm not a big Willie guy, but I like Waylon a lot. I'm from the country, like I'm from the Wild West of the United States. So that kind of music was the stuff that my grandpa and my dad would dance at the county-wide dances on Saturday night. Like my grandpa used to sing that music to me as lullabies. I don't come from like rich people. I like people who play by their own rules, as cliche as that sounds. Like I like iconoclasts. I like people who challenge the paradigm, and these guys weren't like educated men, but they worked really hard. And, I don't think they were good fathers or husbands by any means, but they for sure knew how to get people stomping their boots. And I like that kind of thing, man. I like rebels. I like rabble-rousers.
Well, I mean, the lead character of your book, he's a bit like that. He's a bit of a rebel-rouser himself.
Yeah, I think he's just a guy who like doesn't have any other skills, and now he's doing the only thing he knows how to do.
Which happens to be stand-up comedy, and essentially that's what it is. I mean, it's about an outlaw stand-up comedian, I would say, as well, and follows his slow decline into obscurity and oblivion, as I believe I read a journalist put it. And you yourself are a stand-up comedian. So what I wanted to kind of ask you is just a kind of a simple question, but what came first for you in terms of ambition? I mean, did you want to become a comedian before you wanted to become an author, the other way around, or are those two things interconnected?
You know what, man? I never had any ambition to be an author. I never ever fathomed that I would be having a conversation with a cultured man such as yourself in Genoa, Italy about my book. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me in any reality that I ever envisioned. I've always been like, I love to read, man. I love literature, and everyone in my family pushed books on me at a young age. And, I don't know if you're familiar with like Larry Brown and Harry Cruz or those guys that come out of the American South. But my dad, in the same way that country music was a big part of my grandfather's life, those authors, those broken men in the South who write about pickup trucks and cigarettes, those are what my dad gave to me. So I always wanted to be a stand-up, and I was a stand-up, and I am a stand-up, and I've always been funny, but zero ambition at all about being a writer of any kind.
Was there a moment when you realized that you were funny? You said you were always funny, but was there like an event in your life where you were like, yeah, I am funny?
Yeah, I mean, various times whenever I could make girls laugh, that was always a bit of a slam dunk, And then there was various times I played a lot of sports growing up, and I played American football, and I was very good at it. And I remember at the banquets we would have at the end of the season, my fellow teammates would always have me MC the banquets. And I would get up there and just roast all the coaches. And, I was killing, dude. That's the first time I really remember was my junior year, my 11th grade football banquet. And, just making fun of this big fat coach that we had and how the room was dying. Like other coaches were slapping their knees. And I was like, well, I guess I could do this.
So it was kind of like a way for you to charm people, or was it also a defense mechanism for you, comedy?
I think I love people, man. And I think that like, making people laugh is kind of like cooking for them. I mean, dude, that's the thing is like, it's really hard for me to have these like, conversations, like these high-minded conversations that teeter on pretension, because I am a comedian and I just want to make fun of myself because I have that self-awareness. But, I think that it's a way to connect with people and to, to people please, to make them happy. If they're happy, they're not going to yell at you or be mean to you in any way. If I had to really break it down to a psychological thing.
Well, that's if they react positively to the joke, right? I mean, there must have been instances where people got mad at you.
Yeah, but I think that I've always been able to frame myself as a bit of a rascal or a cad, maybe. So it's like, oh, that's Sam T. He's, I don't think it's never malevolent. I don't think I ever seem vicious. I just seem like I'm like a naughty kid getting my hand slapped, if anything. I've definitely had instances where I've like, been on stage and said something to someone that was I don't know. It's almost like I read their mind, like a telepathic thing, and I said the exact worst thing to that person, and it cut them very deep, and they've had to leave the room. Like, there's been 2 instances where people in different cities in America have been talking during my show, or not even talking, like pouting, looking sad. And I've said to them, these 2 couples in completely different instances, looks like you guys are mourning the anniversary of your son's death. And in both of those instances, they were actually mourning the anniversary of their son's death.
That's the worst thing. I can't think of a
worse
thing to happen.
No, me either. Which is probably why I said it, because they were upsetting me because they weren't laughing at my dumb bullshit comedy. So, yeah, I don't know, dude. I think that I'm a bit of an empath in that regard.
But when you say that you did that, that kind of makes me think that you kind of like to flirt with the idea that it could be possible. Because I'm not sure whether I'd be able to do that the same way, but, there's a bit of danger involved in doing that.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, it's also just me being a fucking pouty, petty asshole because my jokes weren't working in rural Iowa. I mean, I do like the idea of doing non-safe comedy. I don't like comedy that is very straightforward and pedantic and goes from A to B to C. I like either, creative comedy that goes outside the bounds of set up punchline, whether that be very absurd or very dark or very silly. I like that a lot more than just people who get up there and say their shit, wrote word for word. So sometimes when you're playing and you're improvising, you do get in positions where your brain says stuff that your mouth didn't or like your mouth says something your brain didn't clear. Like you're kind of in that that state of pure creation. And when you do that, sometimes you say some of the most transcendently funny stuff and some of the most awful, mean stuff too.
Mm. It's almost like you lose control of your own self.
Yeah, because I do think that when you're really creating, you're not thinking, it's like when, musicians are in that jamming state and they're not, cause I played drums first. So I'm I think I'm kind of able to tap into just the realm of being exactly in the moment. And, when that does happen, it's really exciting, but sometimes you just you'll say something and then you'll be like, oh my God, what have I done?
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that you used to play drums, but that in a way makes sense because maybe, and I have no first person experience in stand-up comedy, but maybe that rhythm is in you when you do your stand-up comedy. Having that experience behind the drums helps you as well in knowing what rhythm to carry.
I 100% agree, man. I think one of my biggest strengths as a comedian and as an author is my rhythm. I think that if you read my book, I definitely, without any education, I'm able to tell when something's lyrical and when there's a meter to it. And if you read my book aloud, which I did during the editing process, it has an internal rhythm to it that I think comes from being behind the drum kit since my earliest memories. My dad was a drummer. My grandpa was a drummer. So it was just always a part of how my brain was wired, was with different syncopations. And, definitely in stand-up, you're playing with tempo and you're playing with volume. And that's just what you're doing with drums as well.
And by the way, just for the record, I did read some passages of your book out loud. It's actually something that I do sometimes, is I just like to read out loud to kind of get that feel, not just of the rhythm, but actually, the musicality of the text. And so I really want to find out more about the book. But another question that I wanted to ask you, and I was curious to know, was whether there were any, you talked about Norm Macdonald. I'm a huge fan of Norm Macdonald myself. I love the guy. But were there any comedians that you would look at growing up, maybe even as a kid, and thought, I'd love to be that guy?
Yeah, I mean, it was never stand-up comedians when I was very young. Because my parents were really cool about letting me watch movies that a child of my age probably shouldn't have seen unedited. So I remember very early on, watching Stripes. Have you ever seen that movie with Harold Ramis and Bill Murray?
Yeah, yes, I have. Yeah, it's a great movie.
So with Stripes, like, Bill Murray and Harold Ramis are totally eschewing the order of the army. And I just liked a lot that they were getting away with murder because they were funny and they were goofy and they were charming and no one could be mad at them. And then also in that film, like, John Candy is in a mud wrestling match with a beautiful woman. And I think it was the first pair of breasts I remember seeing was in Stripes. So it was definitely those, like, Second City, early Saturday Night Live guys like Murray and Harold Ramis, and Ghostbusters was I used to watch Ghostbusters every day as a kid. It was seminal. So it was always like, and then like Fred Willard and Martin Mull in Fernwood Tonight was a very, very early influence on me. I liked people who were just like, they were tongue in cheek and they were, I don't know. I like that, like, I like when someone like Will Ferrell kind of perfected it later on where you think someone's an idiot and you can be like the perfect buffoon and you just seem like you don't know what's going on and you're conducting this like symphony of chaos, but you're actually in charge of it and everyone thinks that you're totally out of control. I love that kind of thing. So like Chris Farley and, all those SNL casts in like, between like 95 and 2005 and Conan O'Brien. It was never stand-up comedians is what I'm trying to say in a very belabored way.
Yeah. Just looking back at those early days as a kid, do you reckon that comedy kind of helped you understand the world around you and the madness of the world around you even?
I don't know, because there's that old trope about like comedians coming from like broken homes and being like, broken toys in some way. And I didn't have that. Like I was definitely part of a very strong family. Like my dad drank when I was a kid, but he never hit us or was actively drunk in front of us. And then at 13, we found out he was sober. He got sober because he was like some reckless booze hound. But I just always saw the way that like my grandpa made my grandma laugh and the way that my dad made me and my sister laugh and the way that my mom was like so sarcastic and cutting with her humor. It was just the kind of the way we communicated in our family. Like everyone in my family was really funny. So
it's not necessarily true that a comedian in order to be funny also has to be kind of broken inside as well.
I don't think so, man. I think that's something that comedians used to say to make them feel interest or sound interesting when they were trying to get laid after shows. Like, I think that there's like, they wanted to be, because, stand-up is the bottom of the barrel of entertainment. Like, it's not like it's very recently that it's been respected by anyone. And, so I think that they wanted to be kind of like self-styled poets and they wanted to look like they were, deep and insightful and interesting and dark. And that's just like not who I am. And most of my friends aren't that way either.
Can comedy help people get laid?
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah. I mean, that was even at an early age, being a portly little man, well, not little, I guess I'm tall, but you know what I mean? Like being a young little fat kid, making girls laugh, like it was the only tool that I had. I couldn't do push-ups. I didn't have cheekbones of any way, but yeah, so. And then later on, and that was what like made me really stay in stand-up was the attention from women. Cause, when you're 19 or 20 and you're doing a bar show and you don't have, any money, but a girl will take you home and like, you get to sleep in a bed. That was, yeah, it definitely helps people get laid, man.
That's good to know. I don't think I have the funny bone in me. I don't even have that going for me, so I don't know how.
Yeah, but you have that accent, dog. That's what you have on us.
Thanks. It doesn't work. It doesn't really work in the internet age of Tinder, though. I gotta be honest.
That is rough. See, I've never been on Tinder. I've been with my wife for 9 years, and that was right when Tinder broke. Oh, yeah. So I've never had to deal with online dating.
Yeah. It's not that much fun. But so it doesn't really work that.
You should come over here, man, and just talk to a woman in America, and they'll be fucking soaked. I'm getting hard just listening to you, brother.
Oh, Sam. No, I mean it's just. So I'm thinking of what you said earlier about what we were saying about it's not necessarily true that comedians have to be broken in order to be funny. But then where does the idea for Billy Ray come from? Because I was thinking while I was reading it, for example, that it might have come from your own personal sort of fears for what future lies ahead. But just generally, I mean, how are you able to sort of portray a man that is very much broken?
Well, I mean, yeah, he's totally a cautionary tale, man. Like, I think it was really easy to write him because he was every fear that I have about, where stand-up can lead you. I mean, that's the thing, dude, is like, stand-up is on the world stage now, and it's like Netflix, and like every big podcast is run by a comedian, and everyone loves stand-up, but there's stand-up shows in America and probably in the UK and probably Australia, because I do think that stand-up, as far as like its evolution, it's the most furthest evolved in English-speaking countries. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I can say that, because I was born in Italy and I speak Italian, and I am in touch with like Italian culture. It's very much sketch based here. Even when it's stand-up comedy, you still see people essentially doing sketches for most of their act, which is very, very
sure,
strange.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing though. I mean, I guess.
No, and it's weird because like in India, they love crowd work. Like they love when comedians talk directly to the crowd. They hate any kind of pretense of an organized comedy set there. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. In America, there's like all these gigs that are done on Mondays and Tuesdays and not in comedy clubs, and they're done in like annexes in the back bars of pool halls and in VFWs or American Legion halls, which are just big, empty tough shed buildings with a bar in one corner and a bunch of American flags and POW flags on the wall that are so outside of the realm of showbiz or any kind of glamour. Like they're not something you aspire to do, is to be stuck in this circuit that Billy Ray's in. But probably, 80% or higher of the comedians are people you've never ever heard of, and you'll never see them perform, but they're still out there scraping out a living of, maybe $60K a year after expenses. And that's how you start where I'm from. I'm from the middle of nowhere, in Denver as far as entertainment. Like we're not LA, New York, or Chicago. No one gave a shit about us. So we would go to these like very far off, places that are pretty much outposts of civilization where no one really would ever want to visit these places. So starting off opening up for these guys whose life it is to go to an oil field in North Dakota and make $400, like it was really easy to kind of like amalgamate and synthesize all these stories and all these terrible examples of what a man can turn into and just put it on the page.
That's interesting.
Because like, dude, like Billy Ray, like he's not, there's a lot of guys. That's the best thing about this book is when comedians read the book, they would say, oh my God, this is about blank. And every comedian had a different name that they would put in regards to Billy Ray, because every comedian knows this person who's just a husk and hasn't had a spark in a very long time, and they're just kind of out there like a ghost, just like a zombie,
Yeah. The amazing Sam Talent, whose novel Running the Light is available at samtalent.com and also on Amazon. If you can't, for one reason or another, order it directly from his personal website, I suggest you pick yourself up a copy of the book, probably the best I've read all year. We're going to get back to my conversation with Sam, but first I just wanted to make sure you knew that there are more episodes of Matt's Art Chat available on several audio streaming platforms, including Spotify, Podbean, and also YouTube. A bunch of other ones as well. And of course, you'll also be able to find them on my personal website, inartematt.com. That's INARTEMATT.com. These are conversations with art creators, curators, and art lovers from all over the world. And speaking of books, one of the podcast conversations features my good friend, poet-author Lucian Zell, here providing 2 of his own definitions for what poetry is.
Poetry is like cocaine. You do it in lines, it gets you high, and if you do the good stuff, you'll be addicted for life. Obviously whimsical. And the second one is a little bit more serious. Poetry is a rainbow when the rain of feelings is pierced by the sunlight of intellect.
You can check out the full interview with Lucien Zell by searching Matt's Art Chat on YouTube, Spotify, Podbean, and a whole bunch of other media streaming platforms, as well as my own personal website, inartematt.com, that's INARTEMATT.com, where you'll also be able to find some more of my art-related content. But before you do that, here's the rest of my conversation with the awesome stand-up comedian and author Sam Tallent, whose novel Running the Light is available now at samtallent.com. But you know what's interesting is that in the book, though, the world of Billy Ray can also it does have its beauty. I found that in some parts of the book. I mean, whether it's via a person or a specific thing or an object, occasionally there are glimpses of beauty that I felt were sort of a great part of the book that definitely enriched the experience of reading the book.
Well, thank you. I don't know if Billy Ray is aware that they're beautiful, though. You know, like even when he's laying in the grass in the park and it feels good on his back and he takes his shirt off and he kind of has this like moment of quiet tranquility, I don't even know if he takes value in that anymore. You know, like when he washes himself in the river in Denver, he's not doing that as some kind of like, romantic Walden-esque back to the land type thing. He just needs to get clean.
When you were writing that book, did you feel detached from Billy Ray?
I don't know, dude. I gotta say, brother, you're asking some of the most insightful questions, and my small vocabulary is struggling to come up with answers.
Small vocabulary? There's some words in that book that I didn't know what they meant.
Well, that's just from reading, man. That's just like, that's a lot of words in that book I know how to use in a sentence, but I couldn't give you a definition of. So, yeah, man, I was definitely, I think that I was trying to write something before this. Like, this book came out of about 100,000 words of a different thing I was working on. And that first chapter of this book was just a chapter of that other thing I was working on. And then I think I was so close to the characters in that first 100,000 words I was writing that when I stumbled across this guy who was just a brute and an ogre and very much just like moving from one primal urge to the next, I was like, oh shit, I can write this guy. So I think that I was detached from him. Like, I never really like him. I never was like, this is a good person. I hope that he succeeds. He was always making all these disgusting choices. And I was like, oh yeah, this guy's totally fucked. Of course he would do that. So I don't know if I was ever attached to him in any way, man.
Did you start off with a precise structure? Did you know exactly where the book would go, or were you just writing?
No, man. Like I said, I was just working on something else. And then that first chapter was just a piece of that thing. And then I was like, well, I want to see where this guy goes. And everything that happened in that book was just, one day in front of the computer, go to bed, the next day, some new stuff happens. And it just happened like that for, the 18 months that it took me to write it.
This may seem like a simple question, but I find that it can be very telling. Whenever I speak with an author, I kind of like to find out whether they wrote their book with pen and paper or digitally. I mean, how did you write Running the Light?
My brother-in-law gave me a terrible Google Chrome book because all my old laptops were breaking. So it was definitely on that very small laptop. My handwriting is atrocious, and I'm not able to do any kind of long form fiction writing on pen and pad. Also, I'm lazy, man. So like if you do pen and pad, then you have to like transcribe that stuff back into a computer. It just seems like you should just start with the computer.
That's true. I'm no longer able to write properly on pen and paper either. But would you define yourself as lazy though? I mean, how long did it take you to write the book?
Well, so there was I had 2 years in Las Vegas, which is the worst place in America. And my wife did her first 2 years of med school there, so I was alone for 2 years while she was learning how to be a doctor. So I was first 6 months I was there, I was in this deep existential shithole in my mind. And then I started writing, and I probably wrote that first 100,000 words of these other things I was working on over 3 months, and then I slipped into this thing. I think it took me I say 18 months, but I wasn't home. I'd be gone on the weekends doing gigs. So it was 4 days a week over 18 months, whatever that may be.
There's something about the book. We were talking about rhythm earlier. I feel like there's a speed to it. Just it almost feels like it was written fast, but there's this physical sort of visceral almost feel to it. And I figured that might have been because the book, maybe one of the drafts, I don't know, was just written fast.
Yeah, man.
Violent.
Yeah, I think you're totally accurate. I think the first 3/4 of that book came out of me real quick, because also I'd be gone for 3 days on the road just thinking about the book. And then I'd get home, and that first day, in front of the computer, just blasting out 3,000 to 5,000 words. And maybe some of it was usable, but yeah, there was definitely an urgency. Cause also I figured if I didn't get it done or get it to a point where it was almost done, I would give up on it because I'm so lazy.
Hey, so what is life like on the road? I mean, do you enjoy it?
Yeah, I love it, man. I love traveling. I love I know America's deeply flawed, but Americans are pretty cool. And they're pretty generous, and they love to show off where they live, and they're a very hospitable people. So it's really cool to have friends in all these different cities in the States, and to be able to see them once or twice a year. And just also my best friends, the people I'm with on the road, are the funniest people in the world, American comedians who, if I'm going to be nationalistic about one thing, I will say that we got the best damn comics in the world. So yeah, I love the road, man. I love going to parks. I love getting in different bodies of water. I love oceans, rivers, and lakes. And I love eating different foods. And yeah, the road's romantic if you can allow it to be.
You like to drive too?
Yeah, man. I mean, I like to drive alone. One of my biggest pleasures in life is driving. I used to be around 8 hours, but now driving about 4 hours by myself on a new stretch of road that I've never been on is one of my biggest joys.
So, I mean, writing, though, is a very different sort of thing, because it requires you to be sitting down for long periods of times often, and it's a very lonely activity. So it's kind of, do you find it difficult then to write?
Yeah, man, it couldn't be more, stand-up comedy is the most immediate, I don't want to say art form, but the most immediate form of entertainment there is. If you're a good comedian because the crowd's laughing. And that needle keeps moving between skilled and pure shit every sentence you're on stage. So the immediate gratification of stand-up is intoxicating, and you can it's pure. It's the most pure thing that you can do as far as entertaining people. Whereas writing, you're just in front of a computer and you don't know if you're wasting your time. You don't know if you wasted a day or a week, or if the last 10,000 words are bullshit. So, yeah, it was tough to know. And also, I don't like anyone to know what I'm writing. My wife would be like, can I read something? And I'd be like, leave me alone. No, it's not done yet. She heard it's not done yet for a year, and it drove her insane. So,
has she read it?
She has read it, dude. Finally she did read it. My wife's very busy with being a doctor. And also she's not a reader. My wife doesn't care for literature, which is fine. A lot of people don't read. And when she read it, she didn't have there wasn't any kind of greater canon of work she could compare it to. And she would be like, oh, this doesn't make sense. And I'd be like, well, that's how you write that kind of thing. That's this example of this thing that you don't understand is very well understood among people who read books. So as much as I wanted to be no, you don't get it, I'm an artist, baby, it was also great to have this pair of innocent eyes on your work to make sure you weren't getting too pretentious or too artistic or anything.
By the way, this is something that I don't know, but maybe it's already out, but are you thinking of putting an audiobook version of the...
Yeah, man. So
Running the Light?
I got I've got a bunch. 11 great American comedians are reading each chapter, individual comics. And I got it recorded and it was like ready to go. I had the pre-order available, and then I did Bert Kreischer's podcast, and which was like, pretty much the equivalent of doing the biggest TV show I've ever done. And someone hit me up, an audiobook agent, and said, hey, let me try and sell this. So it went from being available for pre-order to now it'll probably be out by Christmas.
Excellent. So Sam, we've reached the half-hour mark, and I don't want to keep you much longer. But I just wanted to ask you one more thing.
And also, man,
you
like
that
you're not keeping me. So if I'm not. You're not bothering me. I'll say that. I'm enjoying it.
I'm enjoying it too. It's great, and I've got so many questions to ask you. But I'll probably leave it at this. You mentioned that you like the lifestyle. I mean, you like the life on the road. How are you dealing with the coronavirus times where probably travel is restricted a lot over there, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's brutal, honestly. Cause like last year I went to Montreal, which is like the biggest comedy festival in the world, is the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal. And I was like, kind of knighted and anointed with the title of new face. And like, finally the industry knew about me, and like, so this year I was going to go to Australia, and this year I was going to go to Scotland, and I was going to go to the UK for the first time. Like I was setting my sights broader than America, and thank God I had this damn book ready to go, man, or else I'd be broke, because all of my income before I became, a best-selling author and highly regarded as the future of literature.
Yeah.
Even my dog,
no, I agree.
Even my dog rolled his eyes when I said that, dude. It just came from live performance. So it's tough financially, or it would have been tough financially. And also just like, I'm like you, dude. I mean, I'm domesticated now and I'm married, but I live on there. I mean, I don't know how to put it. Like, I love my wife and I love my home life and I love my friends and family here. But like, there's two versions of me, and one of them is the guy who's home with dinner ready for his wife, who's ready to play Yahtzee or Scrabble. And then there's the other guy who is the fucking, kind of madman who gets to go terrorize Omaha, and then he gets to go terrorize Cincinnati or Vancouver or Seattle, and just being stuck in this goddamn house, it's driving me insane, man.
Yeah, I understand that, but also, I mean, it's almost like, do you get angry at the universe? Because it sounds like there was a lot planned and there was a lot happening, and then all of a sudden, those plans can't come to fruition. Do you ever get angry at the universe?
No, I don't think there's any, there's no order to anything. You're not owed anything. To think that, somehow you're at the center of this thing and it affects you negatively. It's like, I don't know, people are dying, dude. There's a lot of my friends are fucking homeless because they've been kicked out because they've been their unemployment ran out. Like, I've got it good, man. And when the good thing about this coronavirus is a lot of people who shouldn't be doing stand-up, like posers and frauds, they moved back in with their parents because they couldn't afford their rent in Brooklyn. They had to get out of LA because, doing one show a week for $10 wasn't paying the bills. Like, I think that there's going to be a great culling of people, and there's just going to be the strongest left over. And I consider myself one of the strongest, or one of the hardiest. So, long term, man, hopefully stand-up gets small again and it's not cool anymore. And everyone can move on to the next hip thing, and you can just get out of my way.
But again, I apologize because I keep thinking of questions, but I
You're
gotta
not
ask
bothering me. Don't apologize. This is great. I'm literally sitting in my house alone. You're all good, man.
But I gotta ask you this. Sometimes I feel like comedians. It seems to me like some comedians are maybe not getting away with the things that they used to say before. Do you feel the same way?
Is this in regards to kind of the thought policing that goes on in stand-up?
Yeah.
What I love about stand-up is that you were confronted with all of these insane lunatics, especially on the smaller scale, like when I was first starting out in open mics. There was just crazy people who would get up there and say, borderline hate speech. And of course I don't agree with it, but also I am smart enough and have the strength of character enough to know that I'm not going to be swayed into any kind of, catastrophic thinking along racial or gender lines by some idiot saying a joke. Like, I think jokes are jokes. And to think that a comedian who might say something, distasteful or not as woke as the prevalent thought, like, you can be progressive and still say horrible things into a microphone because they're jokes. And it's insane how just, for lack of a better term, how stupid you have to be to think that a comedian saying something that you disagree with is a monster because they said it. They're a comic. These are jokes. Not all jokes work. And to hold them to some kind of like, they're philosophers, they're dangerous thinkers. It's like, nah, dude, they're trying to make a nightclub audience laugh. And I just hate when people want to, go after people for what are jokes. It just doesn't make any sense to me. How we can be so evolved and so making so many strides in technology and science and hopefully in progressive politics and, in gender roles and still be like, oh my God, did you hear what this clown said? It just drives me nuts, dude.
Sam, do you feel like you play a character when you're on stage, or is it you when you're doing your stand-up comedy?
It's a heightened version of myself. It's a version of me. Like if I was ever to, I don't know how to answer that, dude. I'm playing maybe a pure version of myself without the governors on. I think I might be the best version of myself on stage as far as like, being the smartest, being the most quick-witted. But I'm definitely not the silly, dumb buffoon that I portray on stage, That was the best part of the book, is people who know me from stand-up were like, look, man, I bought this book because I thought I needed to do you a favor during Corona, but how the fuck did you write this? Because I never thought you were smart. And I take that as a very high compliment, man. I'd much rather people underestimate me than overestimate me.
Me too. I totally understand what you're saying.
It's a great skill, As soon as people think that you're smart, then they want you to do smart stuff. And I'd much rather just kind of be a bumbling oaf who kind of, some kind of savant who somehow shit out this great book that people love.
But it's a funny thing because even though I do all these art-related content, I actually do feel like I'm bumbling. What did you say? Oath?
Yeah, oath, a lummox,
I am that. I actually really feel that.
Well, yeah, dude, but I'm also like 6'5", 300 pounds. So it really matches the demeanor,
Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for doing this.
Brother, this was one of the biggest joys of any interview that I've done. And I really appreciate your insightful and thoughtful questions.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if it's because you did a good job or I've just been talking to idiots so much, but this was really good, man, and I wish you the best. And hey, by the way, if you're going to buy the book, samtalent.com has it, but if you do live outside the United States, feel free to go to Amazon and save some money on shipping, because I know it's brutal.
People of the universe, I hope you enjoyed that chat. I certainly did. And let me tell you once again that Sam Tallent's book, Running the Light, is available on his website at samtalent.com. And really, I couldn't recommend it enough. It's an awesome book. One of the best, if not the best, I've read all year. Check it out, Running the Light. Thank you very much for listening to the podcast once again. If you'd like to listen to more episodes of Matt's Art Chat, my weekly series of podcast conversations about the arts with creators, curators, and art lovers from all over the world, search Matt's Art Chat on YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, Mixcloud, a whole bunch of other media streaming platforms that I can't think of off the top of my head, but certainly you'll also be able to find them on my personal website, inartematt.com. That's INARTEMATT.com. Till the next time, stay healthy, stay safe, stay strong, and I wish you well in your artistic ventures.